Welcome back. It's your boy Seth Garu Baxter with Maker's Bar, and we are creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. So in our series on redefining Black excellence, I can't say enough about this gentleman who's our guest today. He is an intellectual, he is an academic, and he is extremely funny. We had some of the best conversations already, and I had to do a great deal of homework for you, Maker's Bar audience, to get myself together. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is give your attention to detail and the questions and enjoy what we're about to bring to you. Pardon me. Today, we have with us one of the forefront innovators in some of the AI technology, as well as an entrepreneur who is doing major steps in all of our communities. And I think that might not be the best description, so we're going to allow our guest, Kieran Blanks, to do some of that explaining himself. I have been looking forward to this interview for a good deal of time, and I'm extremely pleased to present to you today our guest, Kieran N. Blanks from the Blankslate group. Forgive me. Hopefully, Kieran, I didn't butcher that name too much. How are you today, Kieran?
I'm doing well, man. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity to share the stage with you. I think we might have chatted about it a little bit. I learned about the founder of this organization, who also was an Aspen fellow like myself. And so when I got the invitation to participate, it was a no-brainer to join.
Fantastic. Kieran, I'm just so excited to have you here today and to share with your story about yourself and your organization. For starters, Kieran, tell us where you come from.
Yeah, so I am from the greater St. Louis region, the east side. So I spent a great deal of my upbringing and spent, before leaving this region, for Atlanta, where I got my education at Morehouse College, and then I did my MBA at University of Rochester, Simon Business School. And so it's the warning I got before. People said, St. Louis, the region, it's one of those boomerang cities. You'll be back. And I said, not me. I'm going to the big cities, and I'm back. And it's been really, really great. I think returning with a more evolved perspective, a more globalized network to really help move the needle on some critical work that is impacting the region, or that has the potential to transform our region and even our state fundamentally. So I'm really, really privileged to have that opportunity.
And what was your family like?
Well, loving. I felt like, if I had to describe my family, I feel like it's like a big hug. I'm the second of five, and so I grew up in one of those it takes a village type of families, where grandmothers and uncles and cookouts and Sunday dinners really helped, I think, to shape the way that I move and navigate and socialize, and really take hints. A lot of my professional focus on taking a human-centered approach to all things. I was always encouraged and ushered into meeting the world in a way that showed my best self at all times, and enabled people to do the same. So really, really privileged to have that. It was interesting because I felt like we were always there, like kind of Cosby family on the block, with having a mom and dad in house. My mom, really traditional, old school, where mom stayed home, dad worked. With the kids at home. And so it really, I don't know if I have language to put to it, but it did something to the way that I see the world, having those, always having eyes on you. Not much got past my mom. And so I think it really gave me an opportunity. I think it sent me into the world with a sense of accountability and structure that has really helped to dictate the way that I move today, professionally and personally even.
And so how did your parents inspire some of the work that you're doing today, which we're going to get into in a little bit? How did they help mold that? And that takes a village vibe. How did they help mold where you're at today?
Yeah, man, that's a really, really great question. Growing up, my father worked in logistics, like a cement company, and his words always were to never do backbreaking work like I've done. He's military. He did all the hands-on work, and he said, I want you, when you go off to school, when you go into the world, I want you to make sure you put your brain to use. And I think that so I was challenged. I think there's just a natural propensity in me to be intellectual. Like I was winning spelling bees, and I think just early on I really showed signs that there was a there. There was something special about the way that I think, the way that I move, and the way that I am, the way that I navigate academics, and the way that I question things. Growing up in a very religious family, you can imagine the type of trouble I got by having some complex questions about what's about the Bible and how did this happen, and so that type of to respond more thoroughly to your question, how they shape it. They were supportive, in a way that I think that they really gave me the space, the psychological freedom to explore and to decide for myself what I wanted out of life. And so when I came to them and told them I wanted to build my own business and I'm moving to Atlanta to go to Morehouse, I don't think I made my hand. I don't think they really understood. They were like, "Oh God, he's doing that thing again where he makes his mind up." And so I think that I'm like dancing around this, but I think my parents just helped me to, I think, to just be stern, and they gave me the confidence to make decisions by myself for myself. I didn't come from a world where I think people were trying to control me or my narrative, which I think was so critical to me stepping into my full self as I got older. For me, not being bashful in any kind of way about expressing myself or sharing my thoughts on different topics. You can imagine the number of notes I got sent home from teachers who was like, "Oh, he just talks a little too much," and now look where I'm get to talk for an hour. So I think that what I'm grateful for is that my parents didn't try to discipline that light out of me, if you will. They didn't encourage, they didn't allow systems, like the education system to I think beat that dreamer out of me, which I'm super, super grateful for, even to this very hour, because you don't know how bad you need those type of kind of stories or words of encouragement to lean back into, especially as you step into the world of entrepreneurship, as we step into the real world where you're gonna stomach more no's than yeses. So you better be sure about what you want and what you want to give up to get it. So I think that type of discipline, that type of comfort with failing forward, that type of comfort with taking a risk on myself and being okay with myself under any circumstance, is probably the greatest gift that they gave to me.
So what were some of the narratives they told you? What were some of the things they were saying to you that gave you this kind of trigger of inspiration?
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess my parents, my grandmother, she played such a instrumental role in my life. I remember her message to me always was make them a believer.
Make them a believer.
Make them a believer. So spend less time trying to convince. Put the work in. Do the real things. Make the real impact, and just have people catch on. And it's that thing that you hear it at first. You just like say more, grandma. Like I'm having a moment right now, and it's that message I look back on, and I'm just like, it was what she was telling me was to be confident in myself. What she was telling me to be is that this world is going to throw a lot of stuff at you. Know how to duck it, know how to dodge it, and use those moments to as strength builders. So that you are ready for your next big challenge. I think the other message I'm thinking of her right now, because she was near and dear to my heart, is to you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. And she always would tell me to sweeten notes because as you interact with the world, it's like no matter what happens, like don't let people make you cold. You don't have to match their energy, as you navigate. And I think that's probably been one, again, a thorough and indelible message that's been playing in my head and heart, because you can imagine, when you are one of the youngest people to step into some of these C-level or C-level adjacent opportunities, like there are questions. What's he doing here? Like people want to question those chops. And so, I think that your ability to, and even in the world of entrepreneurship, equally, as you're engaging investment conversations or even teammates of people who are coming to the table with similar proficiencies or expertise, like really being able to know like your lane and and the speed and pace at which you know how to navigate, and setting that tone for yourself while doing your best to not offend, if you will. I think is really core and critical, I think, to long-term success. Not always trying to win those small battles, but really being able to always keep a long-tailed view of what you're trying to get to. And I think more than anything, I guess, like making sure that I accept and receive every single experience in my life as a valuable lesson that I need to listen to, learn from, and leverage in other environments. And so, I don't know. I think it just it challenges you to increase your frequency. I think to move in a way that is gratitude anchored, purposeful, and I think it just keeps your vision locked in. Like you can't lose sight of what you're going to. And again, that catching more bees with honey vinegar, you don't know who you're going to need along the way. And so making sure that you always keep the soft head, heart, and door open for relationships, I think is also core, or has been core and incredibly valuable to how I've been able to navigate. And that was a message I got from Morehouse. Your network is your network. No, your net worth is your network. And so imagine grandma's message matched with that, and you're off to the races. So I'll pause there.
You pause it. How did some of this inspire the current work that you do? How did this lead to that trail?
How to lead to this trail? It's good. I don't. I've kind of battled with this. Like, I don't know if I could point to that like exact moment or experience or like thing that happened that said this is it. My work right now with Blankslate, our focus is really on dedicated to helping to move vulnerable populations from the wrong side of the economic and digital divide to the right side. And so doing that through fostering through strategic product innovation, workforce development efforts, and working with policy and enterprise leaders to make sure that they have infrastructure or policy in place to ready themselves for this newly minted talent as it is trained up and getting the confidence to apply and to participate in this work. I guess a great example of where I got to put a lot of that to work as well was I was a vice president for a $7 million initiative across the state of Missouri, where I got to really put my chops to work, and some of the principles that have anchored Blankslate, like our codified HITS matrix model that's focused on human centricity, industry-led innovation, transformation, and secure sustainability, putting that into practice to demonstrate and prove the importance of and how to fast track training, increase the confidence of the learner ecosystems. And I think more importantly, really meet people with context, really meet people where they're at, what their lived experiences, taken into account as you roll out programs and different modules. And so through these customized strategies and cutting edge technology that we deployed, we've really been able to I think empower and help people reimagine what the future should look like for them. I've really looked at our work and the work through our other the partner programs and partner organizations I've worked with as giving people an invitation to participate in the future. I think that far too much, especially with this acceleration of technology and all the scary news about job loss, people are like sitting with their cards close to chest, nervous about your next move. And we're saying, hey, believe it or not, you have what it takes. These artificial intelligence tools need your human perspective, your creativity, the lived experience, again, that you and the just life expertise to input into these large language models to output solutions that are real and repeatable. And that conversation, it sounds really great. I think you'll see the smiles across face when we talk about it, but really getting people to believe in themselves I think it's really been like where our work has been the most meaningful. And so I would say that was also probably born from being a part of some top tier education programs, fellowships, and professional experiences where I didn't always see people who looked like myself, where I would have conversations or I would have sidebar conversations with people and I'd always be like, wow, man, like I would love to, kind of, I watch you on Facebook or I see your updates on LinkedIn, like, how can I do that thing? And I had to ask myself, like, wow, like, what can I do to, I guess, productize this in a sense? What type of service or what can I do to help others that maybe feel like they're facing some roadblocks? So people who just need to leap over that little hump of fear, help them, point them, show them different pathways where they can activate their experience, so they can demonstrate to the world their value. That's really been what's been core and critical to the way that we see things, and that's really comes from that people-centered focus that I have in the work. And so I probably should have shared this early on. I really cut my teeth early in the world of UX. So human-centered research and design.
Hold on, Kieran, if you don't mind, for our audience, can you explain a little bit about UX, just so that they're keeping up with you?
Sure. Yeah. So UX experience. It is a practice that was, I think, really born like back in the 90s. I'm not talking too much science on it, but I'm gonna go back a little later than that. But really reinforced on the 90s whenever people were trying to answer questions about human-machine interaction and the way that to ensure that what they were seeing on interfaces or how data was being output, that it was digestible and people really knew what to do with it. So said differently, I was the guy who, if an organization was looking to roll out a new product that they built in a vacuum that they thought was incredible on the audience, I was the guy behind the scenes auditing that to make sure that the clicks made sense, that the language on the screen was going to be able to be understood by a third grader, if you will, that the experience was accessible, that people who were aligned with ADA requirements. So that's I think the Association of Disability, I believe.
Correct. Association of Disabilities Act, yes.
Yeah, so making sure that it aligned with all of their principles so that persons who are visually impaired or differently able would also have an equitable and accessible opportunity to navigate the systems. And so, in short, UX is the field that makes sure that what people say they're delivering to you makes sense to you. I guess I haven't really taken the time to think about how to
weave that in.
Analogy. Yeah, but UX it's all about experience and making sure that it's seamless, it's simple, that even multi-steps processes have good guiding language and indicators that you can best navigate. And so you can imagine that experience really served as the kind of bedrock for a lot of the systems level work that I began designing, because I was always able to think about how this interaction would serve as a jetpack for our target audience to move through this process, or an impediment that we better remove or get ready for some interesting emails from people who we are trying to serve.
Now, with that's a perfect lead in to share with us about your organization, what they do, who they are, what's the functionality.
Yeah, so Blankslate Group.
Yes.
Yeah, so our full focus, really, if I had to say it in lay terms, is I call us a growth studio. So if you are an organization, startup, enterprise, government body who is looking for the next growth spurt, whether that means breaking into a new market, whether that means understanding a new marketable audience, whether that is thinking through how you need to evolve your product stack to compete in the market, we're your team. Been formalized Blankslate back in 2015 when I was taking on some small projects, if you will, really to get my feet wet and really to build some reputability around my name. And at the time, I was just really helping organizations and leaders that were looking to digitalize, were looking to roll out a more sound digital strategy. At the time, take you back to 15, it was all about you was not escaping social media. Everybody wanted to understand what we need to do to have a stronger social footprint. And so I was behind the scenes working with some leaders at like Wells Fargo, USAA, a couple of other big boys to do that work. I actually had the privilege of serving under a unique capacity at the New York State Gaming Commission. Imagine that. Wow. To stand up to reimagine their subscription game portfolio. So in the $9 billion top performing lottery in the country, and I got a chance to steer the direction of that creatively and to give some perspective on what those games needed to look like to be more appealing to the audience. So anybody in New York playing the Cash for Life games, thank me later. I got a chance to work with a brilliant team, leadership there to do that. And so right now, we're also work as, I guess I should share. I mean, I'm privileged in Blankslate because I get a chance to wear a lot of hats too. So there are some of my partners who come in house who it's just purely consulting. There are others who have we'll do like equity exchanges or like in cash plays. For I will serve maybe in a interim role for them to help them to set themselves up a scale. So, support them with, again, like the product design or helping with strategy or helping around with any type of breaking the bank, not breaking the bank, but really moving the needle, if that's a better word choice, on some target metric like revenue, where they need some support. I am privileged to be the person that has been able to help to launch and scale that. And we have some brilliant advisors at our organization as well. So I won't take all the credit, ranging from representation from, I don't know if it's a name drop. Those are some of the world leaders.
You can name drop it. We don't mind if you name drop a little bit.
Some of the, some world leaders in artificial intelligence and infrastructure design. We have a solid perspective in-house who support our capital strategy and the type of and that consultation work that we extend to our partners as well. I guess I'll say, like, even the heartbeat of Blankslate naturally spin off my last name, Blanks. And so I really wanted people to see the world and to think differently about all things. And I always was coming into environments where organizations were always wanting me to think and play in a box. And I was just like, wait a second, but my mind wants to play over in the finance. I'm also thinking about operations. And I just have this way of being able to quickly draw a line between all of those functional areas to think about broader strategy. And so consulting became my way to kind of like scratch that itch, if you will. And that's really how these seeds were planted. And again, being able to work across projects that were focused on regional and economic development, government modernization, digital divide. I guess I should name drop here. I have an incredible privilege recently of being accepted into the Aspen Institute's Education and Career Mobility Fellowship, where I sure. So much. I mean, do you know? If you could have saw my face today, I got that email that like, welcome. I was just like, all right. Even all the things that I've accomplished, I think it's still, I guess, refreshing to kind of be, to get those type of invitations. Or like this, I still think it's kind of like that pinch to remind you, like, like there's still more. Whenever those type of opportunities present themselves. And I just feel honored to be among so many great thinkers, leaders, and people who are trying to reshape the world. And so it's mission aligned with the work that I'm looking to accomplish at Blankslate. I think we're really rewriting the narrative for a lot of underrepresented, overlooked communities, but also I think helping like the little guy business, like become the big guy, like, answering and doing strategic work and coming up with tactical playbooks to help people move from the peripheral to the main stage. I think that's more of really where we've been valuable, in that helping organizations think differently about the loudspeakers that they have out there, to think differently about how they orient and target messages, how they take a more human-centered, quantum-inspired approach to the work. Like, how do I help you see all the different like permutations and ways that this could really be of value, and then we test it. So I guess kind of that's probably my back. That's probably it's taking me back for a second to my days watching Bill Nye the Science Guy, and like really so make me think about all the different ways that we should never lose in sight of like the importance of like testing and being feeling confident with failing forward. So yeah, I hope I answered that question thoroughly for you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you did. Now I'm very curious. Is some there in redefining Black excellence? To me, the specialized industry that you're in is a portion of what I see as Black excellence. Being a man of color, and you are in one of the spaces that is not traditionally an open space for us, but you've found a way and made a way for yourself. Define what that is like for you, being in this space. As a representation to some degree.
That's a heavy one.
No, you can make light of it. I maybe a good way for me to start. I know for myself, working in an organization, and you and I have talked offline, off camera about this. Being in an organization as a man of color where there were no men of color before, but the opportunity I was able to create for myself to be in that space. And I sometimes, knowing that I would not see my own representation, I felt not a weight, but a burden. I don't know that adequately describes it, but I did feel I'm making in this space. I know I'm a representation, and I'm also continuing to create a pathway for those who look like me to follow after me. So how did I feel in those spaces? I felt the pressure of not only just being 10 times better as a recruiter and in human resources, but I felt equal to everyone there, but I felt that I said this to you off camera, and I'm going to try not to laugh, but I sometimes felt like a raisin in the snow. But with that in mind, though, I felt very, very much that those who have gone before us create these opportunities, and we have to display our expertise in those fields. So I felt that in these spaces, for me in particular, I knew I had to make sure I held my own. And I felt that as an equal to everyone else there, I still felt that those who would come after me in this space, because more people of color would be hired in this company, I felt that I'm going to do my darndest in this particular role. I'm going to let them know it's not just Black man, but it's Seth as this expert. So I felt that weight of being at my best. And it's not just as simple as everyone wants to be the best at their job, but I think we in particular in spaces where we're very few, we have this extra thing that we carry with us sometimes. And I'm just curious for you on the technological edge of things, you are in those spaces. So explain some of that experience if you can.
Yeah, sure. I think that my experience in this career has been so non-traditional. Like I have been very privileged to, I say jokingly to people that I've been the Joe Biden for a lot of Barack Obamas. And so being the guy that's like a lot of people like Swiss Army knife, kind of like secret weapon, I don't know if I've always felt like I was carrying that burden. What I did know was that I was, if there was any anxiety, I think it was always knowing that we were like changing a tire in the air, or changing a tire while we're driving, rather. Like it was that type of feeling. Like there's so much acceleration. Yes, there's a lot to prove, but I didn't always feel like it was a lot to prove because I'm a Black man. That just happens to be part of my identity. Like, I felt like there's a lot to prove because, we wanted, if we're going to create a future that is in fact human-centered, if we're going to build realms where everyone everywhere feels an invitation, where if you don't make the choice or decision, like the choice and decision, the autonomy is yours to not participate, but what we are going to do is make this available to you. I think that was more the burden I felt. And I think that I have in my best of my abilities, try not to over racialize life. And I say
Okay.
that because
Okay.
I think there's so much beauty in difference that let's talk about algorithms for a sec. If I want to build a solid product that is going to appeal to a large market, it's probably not in my best interest to only rely on some type of homogenous insight for one group over another. What I need to do is to figure out what where this problem exists and where it's existing at a high enough propensity and level where people will actually pay for, indulge, interact, subscribe for, take whatever the target action is. And so I've always said also to people like when I talk about my human centered approach, I'm like, listen, long story short, unless you identify as a bird or a cat, I'm talking to you. So I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear why this is valuable to you. I want to understand like what good looks like to you so that we can build those happy paths, also that we can build those edge cases that don't leave anyone out. And so maybe if anything at all, I think that it's probably been dealing with people being startled by my presence and my intellect. I don't think it's been a mean thing. I think it's more like, well, like you're different. I haven't met anyone who's thought like this, has moved like this, or who has been invited into the type of rooms that you have been invited to. So my perspective and voice, it isn't just something I like made up in a notebook. Like I've been privileged to show up to special roundtables hosted by our, by chambers. I've led large scale statewide initiatives. I've been invited internationally to lend perspective on entrepreneurship and the emerging technology and this new fourth industrial revolution or industry 5.0 that we're navigating. So you're talking about somebody that in this good old 35 years, I put a lot of work in a lot of testing, a lot of confidence with, again, failing forward to refine my perspective where it is, I would argue, appealing to or can be, I'll say appealing to, can be appealing to, or at least garner the attention and confidence from mass audiences. And so I think that burden is one that I told myself early on I didn't want to carry. I'm going to be great because Kyron's great. And it just so happens Kyron's black,
I dig it. I dig it.
Because I think that in the same way that you'll be celebrated for it, I think that it can also be something that, let's say there's a mistake along the way. I don't want that to be the representation or consequences somebody else has to step into, So because like I said, there's pros and cons for all things in all ways. And so what I do is step into environments with the agenda to raise the bar. When you are done, when we are finished with this experience, things will be different because I made things different, not because I came in here with a racial agenda or anything of that line. What I want to do is see things. I want to see the needle move. And what I hope you learn from this experience is that the next time an applicant comes in that has the intellectual profile, that has a professional experience, and just so happens to be black, that you lend them a fair and equitable opportunity, that you take that risk, that you not take that risk, but that you recognize that as an investment opportunity for you and your business. So that is the logic that I lead with, or I guess just like what I hope my work and my presence reflects on projects and programs that I have been privileged to contribute to.
Now, you mentioned failing forward.
Yeah.
Go into that a little bit, if you don't mind, and describe some of the lessons or the greatest lesson that you might have learned from failing forward. And I really dig that term because I think there's a great deal to unpack there as far as lessons that might help someone else who's coming after that. So if you can describe one of those, when you faced it, what it was like and how you overcame it.
Yeah, man. I mean, you don't get to hold seats. You don't get invitations to things I get inside of anybody to unless you have had some hiccups along the way. Like they say, nobody who didn't take a risk is remembered in history. And so I think there's a bit of a willingness to like bet on yourself. I think that's really really what it boiled down to. I'll share, I was failing forward. Failing forward gave birth to Blank Slate. I was looking at organizations, looking at job descriptions of things that they just didn't fit how I saw me. They didn't fit the way that I wanted to contribute and leave my mark on the world. And so I had the incredible privilege of I was during COVID, I was laid off from an opportunity. I was a senior UX designer at an organization. I had a mentor. I gave her a phone call, and I'm like, hey. Right now, I got two choices. There's a new engineering boot camp that's starting where I'll be full stack trained in Python and Django, or I'm gonna have to pack up and move. And this bank wants to pay me like a ridiculous amount of money to come stand up their UX practice. And she said, I want you to take the time to write down each choice. Write down the benefits of each and what you're going to give enough for each. And I said, okay, what's the point of that? She said, because wealth is options. Which one will you pick that will give you the highest degree of optionality? And as you can imagine, I X'd out the bank because that was going to put me in a nice old box. And I went and I had the privilege. Happened to be a program that opened up. It was called Momentum at Morehouse, and it was powered by Opportunity Hub, where I have been a partner and serve as head of product as well, to do a 20-week full stack web development training. The way that my confidence went from 0 to 100 was insane. And so it was during that window that I decided it was best for me to do something big for myself. I didn't have an appetite. Now that I had these magic powers, now that I could code, now that I could pull up one of these, I think at the time we were using visual, it was some visual tool. It's losing me right now. But I can go into some of these programs like Replit, there it goes. And I can code something. I can actually produce a real product. I'm just like, let me get my chops up out here. Like before I was just the guy designing and taking it to engineers to bring it to life. Now I can do both. And so after writing, I got invited to write a piece. It was COVID. Remember this was 2020. I was invited by VentureBeat to write a piece. Really, I'd say kind of calling out corporate America and what they were not doing to invite persons who were overlooked or from vulnerable workforce populations into this next wave of economic opportunity, which was tech, which was AI, that, as McKinsey had reported, was set to put 4.5 million people in the unemployment line, primarily Black people, by the year 2030. And so I had questions of what are we doing? You made all these diversity commitments post George Floyd. Long story short, where the money at? And what are you doing to really make sure that you have open avenues and channels for people to come participate? Like, what are you doing to make sure people feel confident? And so that piece did really well, and it got me a phone call from someone who I had admired in the work, who invited me to Opportunity to serve as the head of growth. And so it was, I don't know if that's the best example of failing forward, but I think it's an incredible example of taking a risk on myself that could have gone any direction. There was a 50-50 chance that me going to that coding camp left me in the unemployment line even longer. That left me, let's just say I wasn't even good at it. I wasn't able to even master those proficiencies. It's like now what? 20 weeks of my life, and now what? But I was willing to take that gamble. And I think that in this new world, in this new market, that is what you have to equip yourself with. The emotional dexterity, the kind of like this body of armor and willingness to innovate, to push the limits, and to have the confidence to put it out there. Make that mistake on the public stage so that somebody can notice it, or have that. Make that move. Let me not speak anything ill over it. Make that move, make that play on a public stage so that you can build the audience and that you can connect to the right people that can help you move that forward, or give you the news sooner than later that this might not be the best direction to go so that you can make the best pivot for your life. I think that is what failing forward is all about. Again, it's about listening, learning, and leveraging those experiences that you gain along the way. And if you could look at life as a long journey and a road where You're gonna pick some berries off of one tree. You're gonna touch a cactus in the next round. It's gonna prick you a little bit, but if you keep on going, there's that big juicy piece of fruit you're waiting on. I think that type of, I guess, delusion or veil I put over myself keeps me willing to take the risk. That keeps me willing to make the emotional and financial and time commitment to see it through. And so I think back to a trainer of mine I used to work out with, and I wasn't there. We were trying to get me to knock out 50 pull-ups. And I was just like, dude, this is not my jam. I got you on push-ups. But he leaned into me and he said, bite down until it dies. And those words, I don't know why they resonated with me, but they never left my head. And so I led with that, like, bite down until that is yours, until whatever you set your sights on is yours. We talked about this offline, like probably my obsession with Discovery Channel things. And that's kind of why that also connected with me so well, because I'm just like, he's right. Like, when I watch those type of segments and sessions, like the one thing that those predators never do, they don't start running and stop. They lock in and they don't stop until they eat and their babies eat. And I think that is the type of mentality that you have to, in a less morbid way, have to, I think, assign to yourself and give yourself permission to embrace. I think that's it too. Like, I think I use that word permission because I think sometimes we're waiting for somebody to come and, like, like in school, tap us on the shoulder, say, hey, I saw that thing you did. You're really great at that. You should come do it. That's not the real world. In fact, 9 times out of 10, if you're really good at it, the last thing somebody wants to do is see you go and just crush the industry. So there was a level of confidence, maybe even edging into some ego and arrogance that you have to step into very fully. I think if you are going to build a real, reputable, and scalable practice. And I think that are scalable anything, vision, product, whatever you're trying to roll out to the world. And I hope that I said that well, about I like more just the power of failing forward, I think, is getting comfortable again with giving yourself permission to just do it, and unwedding yourself to feelings of embarrassment. Like there is something that you have to just there's some pride to take in just knowing that you tried. Whether you fall down, flip, break a leg, you went for it. And that is something that you get to tell yourself. And that's something that many people will leave this planet not doing. So, step into that 1%, like be that person that went for it. I think that's what failing forward is about for me, especially in the context of like excellence and growth and scalability. You want to dig your teeth in it.
And failing forward is so appropriate to me because I've been hearing that with a number of entrepreneurs that I've interviewed and some of the ones I know. And I think a popular misperception is that failure or incidents where you have these challenges that you face, people get very afraid of that and don't proceed going forward. But what I've heard and what I'm hearing from you saying, failing forward is, so this mountain slowed you down a little bit, but you keep climbing. Failing forward is you're still having motion. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's exactly what you understand. I mean, stop for what? Stop for who? What else? If that's what you really want, go get it. There's an incredible TED Talk. It's by Steve Lacy. He's one of my favorite bands, the internet, and it's called The Bare Maximum. And he talks about, I think, his 17-year-old self wanting to make music. Parents can't afford a Mac for him. He's like, what am I gonna do? He ends up downloading like Pro Tools or something on his phone and starts making music, making beats, producing it, and published it to the point where a band took notice of it. And before you knew it, he's in a high school on tour with one of his favorite bands. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to. There was something to be said about putting in the early work. I think the problem is when people are afraid to fail is there's some comfort that you want to stay attached to. whether it be salary, whether it be a lifestyle that you associate with yourself. And I think if you really want to, part of making dreams come true is being willing to give all that up for your what's next. You know, I love biographies, and so I always are watching people's
I do too.
life stories and like
Yes, me too.
you look at those early days of like Destiny's Child. You look at examples like that. Like look like Beyonce is who Beyonce is because she said, "Yes, that hurt. I'm about to put this bandage on it. 2 tears in the bucket. We're keeping it going." you know. And I don't know, like there's just something about that type of energy, that type of momentum that once you feel it, and once you get it right, it's like I what was the worst word, but I think it is kind of like a drug of sorts. Like once you got it right that first time, and you psyched yourself up that it wouldn't work, and then it did, you want that feeling again and again and again, and before you know it, everything that you had written on that little notebook that you carry with you, like it's alive now. I think there's nothing more. I think that is what the human experience is about. Using your imagination. That's what Blankslate was born from. It's like, put me on, like, look at life as your canvas. Look at your skills, your experience as your paintbrush. Now, work. You can't wait for somebody to say that that's beautiful. They want to come to your museum. Put it out there. Like,
that's right.
System and have it archived. A lot of musicians, I always love those videos when I see people who are like, before I made it big, like I had like 500 mixtapes like tucked away. I'm like, that is the type of energy that when you put into the world, the universe has no choice but to respond with what you need.
I've been hearing more and more of that lately. So is that part of the advice you would give to someone or young entrepreneurs? Is that same piece you just shared?
Absolutely. No, listen. I probably said when I was first getting this off the ground, everything, I woke up and I said, I got to do it. There really was like, it was it was on my heart so heavy. I could not sleep. It's 3 a.m. and my body jolts up. No wiping of the eyes. I have to do it. And I came to my computer and I did not stop until my website was built, until I had my products thought through. And within 3 months, I had one of the heads of NVIDIA as an advisor, and I had secured my first contract. So when I say you have to feel it through your entire existence, it will permeate, you will attract, but you have to have the confidence. That doesn't mean I wasn't scared. That doesn't mean I wasn't like, oh, like what are people gonna think if this doesn't go well? I had to shut myself up. It was me versus me with getting things accomplished. And I'm a firm believer is everything is funny until I make it work. So So I can handle the people on the sidelines heckling and what do you think you're doing? I can handle that because give me a minute. I promise you're going to wish you was on my team when I'm finished. And I'll leave it there.
So following up with some of that, is that some of the advice you struggle with yourself to follow?
Not anymore. I think that if you're, are you referring specifically to like the keep going piece?
Correct.
I'll say this. I think that having a tough conversation with myself was that you are a man, not a machine. And there are some things you got energy until you need to rest. And I think that was probably one of the toughest things that I had to come to grips with, because you were not going to tell me that I couldn't do every single thing. And the truth is, it's not that I can't. It's not that I can't even figure it out. It's not that I can't even find tools to do it. But you have to ask yourself, is this even the best use of my time? What am I giving up in exchange to put energy here versus there? I think that was a little bit more what I had challenges with getting myself was to take that kind of step back, that kind of battery charge moment. Because like once I got it right, I wanted to run that race again and again and again. And like the idea of burnout and I guess even the emotional capacity that was there or missing, I really hadn't taken into full account. And so I guess my advice to people is like, definitely push the needle, but make sure you keep a good pulse if I could do it again, I keep a good pulse on self. Make sure that you also are building habits that keep you centered. I ended up adopting yoga. I ended up adopting bike riding. I started roller skating.
Forget about roller skating, Kieran.
Oh, listen,
people forget about roller skating. I still dig roller skating. People forget about roller skating, how fun that was. That's a good release too.
And listen, that's a full body, that is where you just put your headphones on and you just blitz out. And you give yourself an hour or two to just go crazy on the path, and you can come down and get anything done. And so I shared that because I think that was the piece that was, as much as I talked about human-centered, I don't even think I had fully taken into account my own energetic humanity or possible limitations, or maybe how overworking and exhausting myself, what that could mean in terms of the quality of things I was putting out, on top of the attention I could give things. And so I don't know if it's a balance, but I think you kind of find your way, whatever that means for you. I think I don't even know if I believe in balance anymore.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, if you want it bad enough, you will make the time, you will do the things that are necessary. Whether it's 3 p.m. or whether it's 3 a.m., you will find a way to bring that vision or that idea to life. And again, I think that is excellence is action. Like we talk about, again, to the feeling forward, it's about just building that body of armor, that confidence, just being willing to shoulder whatever. There's an image in my head right now. I'm seeing them like those cartoons where you see a person like coming through a blizzard, just with a little stick and hammock trying to get through it. I think that is the entrepreneurial, that is like any builder's type of reality. But when you get to the top, the cathartic feeling that overwhelms you, when you get to, and whatever the top means for you, what I'm saying? Like when you reach that kind of peak and pinnacle, I don't know. I just don't think it's a better feeling. And it's something that once you do it, once you're going to I think you're going to be programmed to hunt for it again and again.
Which I think brings us into this interesting place. I don't know that people always know how to handle criticism as they're on their journey toward what their goal is. And forgive me, audience, and Kieran, if you hear my dogs in the background, forgive me. So the mailman's probably here. But I don't know that people always know how to deal with criticism that really can become stifling in the pursuit of your dream if you don't have methods and or pathways to see yourself out of those areas. So how does one get out of self-criticism and or other criticism that comes their direction, or maybe even an example on how you deal with criticism and you get out of that?
Yeah, I might not be the best person to ask this.
I think you're the perfect person to answer.
Listen, my level of dismissal should probably be.
No.
I'm willing. Here's what I'll say, and here's what I mean by that. I think that you have to be conscious of who you accept criticism from.
There we go.
If there are people in my life who have made it, who have done it, but I'm also convinced that my way and my story, I can still get there by my, through my own path, And again, this is coming from my, even as, and this is my UX side coming out too, it's like, there has to be like a threshold or stopping point whenever you stop accepting feedback. You have to get to a point where you are that good enough is good enough for you and for whoever you're trying to, and whatever you're trying to move through life. Otherwise, you will. I think it was an opera. Someone I heard in this opera interview was like, if you live for the applause, you'll die by the silence, or something. Something in that vein. I may not be quoting that properly, but really meaning that, take it in when you need it, but also know how to filter it. I think that's what it is. You have to come up with your own kind of filtration system for yourself with like, you know,
I haven't heard that one yet. I like that because I think the biggest pin that you stuck in the balloon for me that was great is be careful who you accept criticism from, and being selective on those people who are around you that you will even allow to say, hey, oh, you're not doing that right, or so forth. I think that was very huge for me as an epiphanous moment.
absolutely. I mean, because you have to ask yourself, I mean, are they living the life I want? I
Yep.
think that's, like if you, and then again, like, I mean, if you're talking like for products, if you're my target audience and I'm trying to win your favor, I better grab my notebook and write this in ink to make sure I don't miss this. But if we're talking about like, and again, so I think it's levels to it, we're talking about your life decisions, your choice. I mean, some things, some dreams are yours to bring to life. And you can't count on other people to understand it. You can't rely on their opinion to get there. And I think that that's the beauty of life. Like that was like when I hear things like people say, like, find your tribe. I really think that that's what we are doing. But you have to try to, once that vision or idea comes to you, now I think it's incumbent on you to go demystify that and find other people who see life maybe not exactly like you, but similar to you, who can help you in expanding or moving closer to seeing, to bringing that through, to bringing that vision to life. And you have to also weed out and kind of, take the side road around people who want to stifle startle or who want to project their own insecurities onto what you think is possible. I remember when I spoke out loud about me doing my own business. I mean, I was a couple people who I trusted behind the scenes kind of had like their own like, oh yeah, sure, okay. And then I was in motion, and you see me on stage, and you see me in places, and it's like, wait a second, like you weren't kidding. I told you, listen up, or you're gonna learn. There's just really no other way around it. But I think that speaks to a level of conviction that that was again instilled in me very early on. I recite my grandmother when she said, "Make them a believer." Those are the type of those lessons that were instilled in me. They showed up at times where I really needed them. Like because I definitely got those messages like, yeah, like it's not gonna be what you think it's gonna be. And I could have received that and shut down and went to go put in the application and said, all right, there goes nothing, and spent the rest of my life wondering what if. Or I could have done just what I'm doing, getting louder, figuring out who wants to help me, make it and unabashedly putting out into the world what I can do and what I want to accomplish, and then allowing the universe to do the rest and sending the right people in my direction. And like I said, you hear me speak, I have a very pronounced faith. I pray a lot. I think that's also something
I
that
was going to
really
get
is
to
helped.
that. This is, and I didn't want to interrupt you. This is one of my biggest questions I try to get to because I think also young entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs look to see where does spirituality fit into this. So I'm glad you brought this up. Forgive me for interrupting you.
Oh no, you're fine. No, it was there was a pastor that I went to her church in Greater Atlanta, and I believe it was Dr. Beverly Lewis King, if I'm not mistaken, and she had a book somewhere in my bookcase over here. And there was this exercise, I won't forget it, where anytime you were up against a trouble or challenge, you'd write down problem, you write down truth, and you write down affirmation. And so what could that look like in practice? The problem. Somebody told me they didn't like my product. The truth. They're not my buyer anyway. my affirmation, I will keep building anyway. And I had a notebook with those type of messages to myself to keep myself empowered to keep going because, like life is going to throw stuff at you. Duck it, put a band-aid on if it cuts you, but keep going.
Right.
If you want to live a life that's worth talking about, I guess I've always thought about like, what will I talk about when I'm sitting on one of those rocking chairs talking to little kids and my beard's a little grayed up. Like, I'm like, let me have some good stories to tell. Like, let me tell you about that. Let me tell you that one time when,
right.
And I think it's hanging on to that, or like just even having that type of legacy that I want to build in mind, that makes me close my eyes and just go for it sometimes. Like take the deep dive, like if it works, great. If it doesn't, you learned a great lesson. And Some will cost you a little bit more, some nothing at all. But what you will know is that you gave it a chance. You'll know if you liked it or not. I think about like going to Sam's Club on Saturdays. When you walk through and they give you samples. Take a
Yep.
piece. You don't like it, put it out. Like that is life in a nutshell. If you like it, go back for seconds. If you don't, spit it out. It never happened.
It's kind of like the Forrest Gump thing too. What they say, life is like a box of chocolates.
No, for real. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
there's so many metaphors for that. I think to get us to the same place.
Yes.
And that place is just, keep going. I wrote about this. I think it was it was a story of Sisyphus. It's a Greek story I'm obsessed with. And if I'm quoting it right, Sisyphus had been punished by the gods for some unreasonable reason, I'm sure, knowing Greek mythology. And so he was forced to push a rock up a hill.
Up the hill.
But every time he got to the top, they knock it back down and had to start all over again. And it's a story of endurance, and I lean into that as I think about that, because I'm like, how do I take on that kind of, I don't want to make up a word. I was about to say like Sisypherian. I was going to make up something like this.
We'll go with that. Sisypherian.
How do I kind of like, how do I internalize that? How do I go for it? And I held to that. And one thing I would always write, I would always tell myself to believe in myself like a religion. That was always my note to myself. Believe in yourself like religion. If you can watch TV, I'm gonna obviously be a WWF fan, but once a kid, like you be sitting there, convinced you are rooting for who you want to win. You have all your faith that person's gonna do that special move to win the fight. I had to start looking internally, ask myself, like, okay, like what does my power? What's my power by move? What can I do? What can I put into the world? To again attract that attention, attract that confidence. And I'm at that point now where I have worked so hard for so long. I got started at such an early age in my career, fortunately, that I built that trust where people are like, if you want the guy to do the things and to make things successful with rigor, that's research backed, that's going to be time tested, and that you could put up against the best in class projects on the market, you can tap me. You know why? Because I was willing to make those mistakes publicly and behind the scenes. When everybody else might have been clubbing or something, or whatever we were doing during those early years, I was running consulting projects. My friends would be so annoyed. I'm like, that's like, Kieran, are you all coming over? I had a time, shout out to the Entrepreneurship Center at Morehouse College. One of my first subcontracts I won was under an SBA 8A grant, I believe, with where I was a subcontractor for Lockheed Martin and a company called Mantech. I did market consulting for 20-year-old me is doing
Mantech.
For Mantech. Yeah, 20-year-old me is driving to Huntsville, Alabama to meet with CEOs and to do this research. You want to talk about the type of confidence that builds in you when and I say that that's a great story because I remember sitting at a table with a CIO at a company, and he said, "You know why we invited you?" He said, "Because you belong."
Oh, powerful. Whoa.
There's nothing there's nothing about you that says I shouldn't be here. You're not and I was just like, I had never met this man. I had never sat at a table with him. So this is him observing me from a distance. This is him recognizing the way that I navigate. This is him watching me have the guts to show up, regardless of how complicated the conversation, making a contribution or asking for some insight so I can do my job better. I had those. It was me and the head of product, and I won't forget that. And I was like, I had to bake on that. I was like, this is early in my career. So I'm taking this in, and you talk about my spell at USAA whenever the CMO at the time basically ripped me off the shelf and adopted me. He said, "I see you come through every day. You are suited and booted. I need to know who you are." Like, what are you doing? And I remember getting invited on a call with at the time they said that he was one of the most tight-lipped executives in house, and he invited me on all his calls on Microsoft, and I met with him weekly. Why? Again, because I had the guts to show up and I behaved in a way that said I belonged. Do I know what that looks like? Do I know how to pick that apart and call it out or put words to it? No, but I believe it goes back to, like you said, like those family and those community, that community shaping and rearing, where I was told, don't wait for nobody to tell you you're good enough. You are. Now move on it. And by the time they catch up, you'll be too far gone.
That's it.
And there's people that would listen to that and be like, oh, that's cocky, that's arrogant. He think he too much. Think more of yourself. Do that. And then we could be in the same box. And then we could both do great things. And then we can collaborate. And then you don't have to watch over here with your eyes squinting. We can play together. It's fun over here, I promise you. So
it's fun over here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we could see the world through that type of lens, I think we'd be surprised at what we can really bring to life. And this what also gave birth to the framework that I used to problem solve with. On our site, I told the HITS matrix model. Again, focus on that human-centered piece where we're asking ourselves about the behaviors, the insight, the attitude that people bring to different problems, and making sure that we're taking note of that as we solve that industry-led innovation. We're at a time and place in the market where industry, like these Internet of Things projects and products that are rolling out, policy and traditional academia isn't keeping up. They are informing the world that we live in. The T in our acronym is for transformation. So what does that delta look like? What happens between where you're at and where you're trying to get to? And what are we doing in between to close that gap? And then that's S for secure sustainability. We're asking the question about, okay, in this data-oriented world and space, how do we make sure that privacy and sovereignty is kept in your hands so that you also don't find ourselves exploited in this technocratic kind of environment where people who do have the STEM proficiencies or they're running the big companies, that they're the only ones that have a voice and power to steer the direction of the world. How do we make sure that we, to the best of our abilities, keep things democratic in some type of manner? And again, I think that kind of comes back to operating with a level of boldness, a level of fearlessness, and a level of bet on yourselfness that I think you only gain through experience. I think you only gain by surrounding yourself by other people who have done it, who already walked those beaten paths, who crawl so you can walk, if you will. And so selfish plug here too. It's one of the reasons why I'm working on a very special project right now with Dr. Rodney Sampson again, on an Opportunity Hub, on our Disrupt membership, where we're giving the invitation to the world to participate in some of our higher growth company building training programs, giving you the introduction to venture capital so you can understand what these leaders are thinking about behind the scenes and what you need to show up to the table with to demonstrate that you are in fact an investable vehicle. And then the last piece of that, is a new product school showing you how to leverage artificial intelligence and AI so that you can build your own practice, so that you can stand up and out in this world that is moving at a pace that is leaving many of us disoriented. How do you even get started? And, like I said, so that's my kind of plug in and call out to people to say, start today, start now, and do it. And, we was all scared to ride a bike. I'm sure we'll at least pop a wheelie by now. I remember not being able to tie your shoes. Look at you now. I think it's just I think it's the fear of people going back to the feeling like a novice. And I think that's another kind of ego piece we have to relinquish if you're going to navigate and survive this new industry 5.0 where man and machine are going to have to work together. I don't remember the person who said it, but I was scrolling. It's like a Instagram scroll. And he said, it was a gentleman, he said, there's two people that are going to run this new market, this next decade and wave. It's the genius and the manager. And so you ask yourself which side of that you want to play on. Ask yourself, how do I move myself from the consumption side of these artificial tools, of this new technology, into the production side? What problem can I solve? What unique experience or professional acumen do I have that needs to be built into a product that people can use? Or is it something you recognize during a work day as an RN? Is it something that you recognize in your construction site that needs to be better managed or that needs to be better tracked? And I think that, and I'm saying that because these systems are as smart as we make them. Sure, they're getting getting reasoning skills, but they're based off of what? Human intellect. They're based off of records that we're importing. So challenge yourself to join this conversation to close this gap of inequity in this system that's being built around us, on top of us, and ask yourself how you want to play. So I'll pause. This is obviously work that I'm very passionate about, and making sure that people just have the guts to do it.
I think you keyed it right there. Have the guts to do it. And I find what I'm learning too is some people don't know they have the guts to do it until they begin doing it. Then they feel like, oh, maybe I can do this. And that's some of the thing, especially in the entrepreneurial spirit, is once you start doing it, you start to get this thing like, oh yeah, maybe I can. And I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I think it's like, I'm visual. So I'm thinking like, I see this as like, this is equivalent to you riding down a two-lane highway. And there's you and your car, and there's a vehicle swerving in your direction. Like, what are you going to do? Were you prepared for that to happen? Absolutely not. But if you do nothing, what you can't count on is a collision. So I think it's a situation of a very significant magnitude, where you should be on in some type of program right now, or you should at least be just testing, watch a video, follow along with a coding class, listen to what somebody's talking about it. I mean, if you just want to stay specialized, see what's happening in your industry. Right now, anything that's task-based is being automated away. So you should be asking yourself right now, people tuning in, anybody, asking yourself, what can I do with technology, or for my career, or for my practice, that will make me indispensable in this work? Or what can I create that will turn an idea, a concept, into a marketable product that can take me from side hustle to set my family and my life up for generations of multi-generational wealth. That is where we're at. We're at that type of gold rush. This is probably one of the greatest wealth building events of our lifetime that we'll get to experience. Is putting your name in the hat for a new product. And then let's not even talk about the realities of the silver tsunami, where we have our boomers and things that are looking to just go kick their feet up in Florida, want to sell businesses. They're like, look, take this off my hands. We have a really incredible chance to steer our own lives, our country into a championship game, for lack of better words.
And so I'm so glad you made that. And the silver tsunami, I think, is a great way to put it as well, because I think we are at a turning point in that sense of opportunities, even though there seems to be some uncertainty since via the election, et cetera. But there's still to me, there seems to be nothing but opportunity at the moment if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to do something. I'm so glad you capsulized that.
And here's reality, man. It's been uncertain. We don't no day is gonna look the same as another. I mean, if you are, I think reality is, if you aren't ready for a change, you have to ask yourself, am I even evolving? If it's not growing, it's dying. So what are you giving up by not cutting against the grain and trying to put yourself in some less than certain or ideal situations? That's where you really That's where you build your muscle. That's whenever you do those resistance exercises, like that's where you build the muscle. It's not where you do the comfortable walk through the park. That's when you do a push-up, you do that pull-up, you hit that higher weight limit. Like, what are you doing to punch above your weight? Like I think that is, I don't know, like it's so many, it's such an exciting time, I think. And again, if you are the person with the guts to get started and take a risk on yourself, to even learn the game, you are already 10 times ahead of most people. Little do you know it. I don't, like, and there's so many events and conferences and webinars you can participate in, to drop a note, Slack channels, WhatsApp groups, like you name it. There are whole communities. I'm on Discord. Discord is an incredible example. I'm in so many conversations, learning from people. Hey, I'm launching this new product here. Anybody want to give it an eye? I was like, well, I never thought about that. Like these are the type of intellectual things that are taking place, not in academic environments. These are just regular everyday people that are saying, this is exciting and I want to be, and I want a part of it. And I think I think everyone owes it to themselves right now in this decade, to be able to get your name on the wall one day.
And to take the leap is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
On that note, Kieran, I know your time is extremely valuable. I wanted to be able to first off ask, if you had to say you in your legacy, the words, pieces of advice you would, don't make me laugh. Yeah. If you had to say, what would be the best piece of advice in leaving with our viewers today? What would that be? Now, we've had some incredible gems, I already have to say, but the most valuable one that you feel you took your last breath, not that that's coming anytime soon, but but just on the right. But if you had to, and you know what, I even know it better. Maybe I'll put it this way. I'm thinking now, I don't want any kind of energy in that sort. If you were telling the younger Kieran this piece of advice, what would that be?
I'm going to redrop a gem I dropped earlier. I want to really resonate. Believe in yourself like a religion.
Oh, dig it. I like that. That's a great place to put it.
Believe in yourself like a religion where it's immovable. It's every chapter has a different lesson for you, and you continue to build those books, for yourself, that you can reflect on and that you can look back at. I think that is the best piece of advice I would give myself. Now, I want to kind of add this piece in because I think it's important to my narrative. And when you asked earlier about like things that shaped me, when I was about 17, I was in a very serious car accident. A few people know this. I fallen asleep behind the wheel of the car, gone up on an overpass, flipped about 3 times, and I woke up in the hospital. And they told my parents that I would be basically a vegetable, that I had water on my brain, and that they could just basically just throw the towel in. I was going to need a full-time nurse. I woke up speaking clear English. I woke up in half of the time that the doctors had said that I'll recover. I was walking again. So when I say it's the behind the scenes that matter most, like everything they told me, I was able to make every one of those medical predictions alive. And I think that same reality is true and possible in this new wave of tech, where they're telling us we're going to be displaced and obsolete. I guess my maybe second piece that'd be like, make them a liar. Prove the data wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, here is your opportunity to do so. It was me having to do some extra moves outside of physical therapy. It was me teaching myself to walk again, teaching myself to be mobile again, teaching myself to be alert again, to fully move back into the world at even a fraction of who I was before. And I think it's that type of lesson in my life that taught me nobody has to wake up next to you in the morning except for you. So you better know how to do all the things to the best of your abilities, or at least have a real good conversation for somebody to help you out.
Right.
And I think that type of reality kind of lives within that believing in yourself. Like that's where it starts. Like these conversations up here, the conversations you have to have with whoever you believe in. Make sure you find something greater than yourself to hold you accountable to. I think that would be maybe the absolute last piece I would say. Like, what's that big why? Like, what's that thing that if everything around you fell apart would still keep you willing to get up every day? You gotta answer that for yourself.
I think that's a perfect place. Kieran, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you and learn more about you?
Funny you should ask.
See?
I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Kieran and Blanks, just as you see it here on the screen. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm a little bored on the gram, if I can be honest right now, just because I'm actually like doing things. So a lot of just kind of capturing the photos and things. That's not my strength right now. Yeah, and hopefully in the city near them soon. I'm also going to be I'm a strategic partnership advisor for the Smart City Expo in New York. So you can catch me leading a very critical panel on upskilling America, April 2nd and 3rd. Yeah, man, I'm trying to be in all the places doing all the things. And so, yeah, LinkedIn, connect. And any way that we can expand our work together, let's figure it out.
Now, I got to say, we didn't get too much into the AI aspect of this. So I'm hoping, Kieran, I can invite you back and we can do a part 2. Are you up for that?
Hey, man, give me the ring. If I got to block.
See, what some of you guys don't know is before we got to filming, Kieran already had me in laughter. And I'm a real person. I try to bring that. I want to point this while we're on camera because I think what you said to me when we first started speaking, I want to make sure it's captured. You said, I'm happy that you are just like a person with your success and things, like you just engage on a human level. And I was like, I wouldn't know any other kind of way to be, because the last thing I want to be is like, somebody gave me a chance. Yeah, somebody gave me a chance. Somebody didn't turn a brow down at me. And so I tried to the best of my abilities, continue to take the most humanized, emphatic approach to interact with people as reasonably possible. Yeah. and add some smiles to that as a portion of the conversation. I say, I got to say, Kieran, I truly feel blessed to have spoken to you, to have met you. This is a friendship that will stay and will grow and build. I hope people forgive me for my laughter some of the times, but there's a genius that also we didn't get to tap into too much. So I'm hoping our Maker's Bar audience will like to, and this is just a sample of Kieran and his greatness, but there's some other aspects I'd like to invite him back for in the AI field that I'd love to explore a little bit deeper as well. And just where we just talk about that part. But on behalf of today's interview, I am humbled and in gratitude for such an intelligent person to be with us today and to share the space with us. It has been an absolute blessing. And it's been a joy and a humorous adventure at that. Kieran and the Blanks, Kieran and the Blankslate group. Maker's Bar, we want to thank you for helping us to create 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. Especially would like to give thanks to Kieran and his advice in aiding in some of our mission and those goals. As all of you know, part of how I end each of these broadcasts is to say, the Lovevolution is the revolution that we want, and it begins with you. I thank you so much for tuning in today to Maker's Bar with your boy Seth Garu Baxter and Kieran and Blanks. Kieran, again, thank you so much, and we look forward to a part 2, and I look forward to us talking again outside of the camera as well. Kieran, thank you so much, my good man.
Thank you for having me.
Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. I was just messaging you like, okay, how are we gonna chop this up? How's it gonna be chopped up?